Oh, welcome everybody back to my YouTube channel. It has been a while and I'm a little bit sporadic with my updates, but I thought since it's beginning of the year, 2026 to be exact, I thought it would be a nice time to actually give you a little bit of an overview about what I've been doing and what's coming up. So I apologise for the lighting in here. It's not fantastic. I've got an overhead light and it's a Scottish evening, so it's kind of dark, getting dark already, and it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. So yeah, the lighting isn't fantastic, but hopefully you'll forgive me. So I thought it would be a nice time to have a wee chat. So if you've got a hot drink or a cold one, you can just take a seat, put your feet up and just listen and have a chat with me a little bit about books and romance, historical romance, romantasy, and everything Scottish. So let's dive in. So to start off with, I thought I would show you what the releases were for 2025. So this is always exciting because I've got the paperbacks in my hot little hand, and the first one here that I published at the beginning of last year, so late January I think it was last year in 2025. This was the Pirate's Indecent Proposal. So my very first pirate romance. It is actually Scottish, but it's pirates too. It's about a roguish pirate who actually saves a lady who's been left on a rock to die by her evil husband, and she hires him to take revenge on her husband, but he'll only do it for a price. So it's a very exciting and heartfelt story. I really enjoyed writing this, and there's a bit of swashbuckling in there as well. So that was the first, that kicked 25 off. So that was a great start to the year. Then I moved on. So this was the beginning of the Highland Scandal series. So it's a trilogy set on the Isle of Mull, 14th century, so it's medieval. And this is the second trilogy that I've actually set on the Isle of Mull. The first one was called The Rogues of Mull, and that was the previous year, 2024. And this year, 2026, I'm going back to Mull. More about that in a little bit. So after the Pirate's Indecent Proposal, we moved on to the Laird's Wicked Game. And you'll see that there's kind of like a bit of a theme going on with the titles. The title kind of tells you a little bit what it's about. So it's got kind of like a bit of a naughty edge to this one. It's the second sister. So there are three sisters who they're McGregor sisters. So they're not MacLean. MacLean is the main clan that these stories all kind of revolve around. But these three sisters all marry different men on the Isle of Mull. And actually the third sister, in the third book, which is the Chief's Wild Promise, she marries a MacKinnon, which is the opposing clan on the Isle of Mull. So in the first series, the Rogues of Mull, the MacKinnons and the MacLeans are arch enemies. And throughout this series, things are a lot less tense, but there is still animosity, and things kind of get cleared up a little bit in book 3. So these three books were the first half of 2025, and I tend to do that at the moment. I tend to do a trilogy, historical romance trilogy, for the first half of the year, and I'm doing that for this year too, and I'll speak a little bit about that in a wee bit. But the second half of the year, I kind of shifted gears, and I wrote my second Celtic Romantasy. So the year before, so 2024, I published the Enforcer's Bride duology. It was my first dipping my toes into romantasy, and I made sure that it had a Scottish and Celtic vibe because that's what I'm all about. And it did really well. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive back into that world with a new duology in that world. So I kicked everything off in September with, you can see these are a bit bigger than the historicals. The historicals are not small books, but the romances are a bit girthier. And this is The Queen and the Half-Blood. So it is the second duology, like I said, and it carries on historically from the first. And there are characters from the first duology that pop up in this, but you don't actually have to have read the first duology to fully enjoy this. Perhaps if you want the full background, it's nice to do, but you don't have to. So The Queen and the Half-Blood is about a young, untested queen who makes a dangerous pact with an outlaw. He's half fae, half human, and he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he's also pretty ambitious, and he's got a few things he wants to get done, and he needs her, but she needs him too because he's got a army of wolvers. These are half human, half wolf mythological creatures that existed in Scottish folklore, and I bring them to life in my world. And she needs his army. So in order to do so, she has to marry him, and that's the last thing she wants to do. So I really enjoyed diving into this. So The Queen and the Half-Blood was book 1, and then book 2 was The Burning Crown. You can see once again a nice thick book. The Burning Crown was the conclusion to the duology. So a duology is different, for those of you who don't know, to a trilogy. Now the obvious difference that we can all see is that a trilogy is 3 books and duology is 2. But the biggest difference for me is that my trilogies are all standalone romances within an overarching series. So you kind of meet the heroes and heroines perhaps from the previous book, and everything's set up and there's like a bit of an overarching story, but you could read them out of order and it wouldn't matter because each story is standalone. But duologies are different, and of course the genre is different because it's fantasy romance. So for these ones, I tend to have a cliffhanger. Yes, a cliffhanger, I admit it. Shoot me now. You either love them or you hate them, although I have to say that I enjoy a good cliffhanger, especially and probably only if I know that the next book is coming soon. And that's why I put this one out in December and the previous one came out in September. So you just have to wait a couple of months, which I think is not too painful. So yes, that's the thing, is that think of a duology like one enormous story split in half, with the halfway point being a massive cliffhanger. So you have to read book 1. You have to read Queen and the Half-Blood for this one in order for The Burning Crown to make sense. But once you do, it's a huge epic adventure. So it's a big story split in half. So that is what 2025 brought for me. It was a fun year with a lot of writing, as you can see. Maybe a bit too much writing, if I'm honest, at times. It seemed to take a lot of work, that duology, the Romantasy one especially. I think the thing about the Romantasy is that the plots are often a lot more complex, and of course there's magic and there's world building, and although I've set up the world because I've written about it before, it's still quite involved, the editing of these. Whereas with historicals, I tend to find them easier. I don't know why. I just do. Maybe because I've been doing them for longer, because I have written a few. And if you've been following me for a while, you'll know I have. I've written nearly 58 books by now and published. So it's been a few. So yes, I found the year quite tiring in many ways, although I loved every single book I put out. I really was proud of every single one. I've been here living in Edinburgh it'll be nearly 2 years in a few days' time, and it's been amazing. I have to say that it was definitely the right move to come to live here from New Zealand. We moved 2 years ago to Edinburgh, and it's been fabulous, especially fabulous because my books are set in Scotland, and so for research and for atmosphere, it just doesn't beat it living here. And we've done so much travelling around Scotland. I really feel that I can evoke the atmosphere of the country so much better. I could before, because I've got a good imagination. I'm an author and I did a lot of research and I've been to Scotland before, but there is no substitute for actually living here. So that's been wonderful, but it does mean that we had a really busy year in 2025. There was a lot going on. A lot of travelling and exploring and a lot of fun things, and I had to kind of squeeze the writing in amongst that. And there were other exciting things last year as well. So last year I actually took part in 2 reader signing events. So the first one was at Newark-on-Trent, just across the border. And that was great fun. That was my first signing ever, because coming from New Zealand, I mean, now in New Zealand we're starting to do reader signing events, but up until recently they really weren't a thing. Whereas in Europe and in America and the UK, they are. So this one was called, I think, Fiction Fans and Ball Gowns, that I went to, and that was last March, I think, and that was pretty exciting. I was actually the only kind of Highlander romance, Celtic romantasy person in the entire signings that made me really stand out. So that was a good thing, actually. And these were all people that had never heard of me before. So I made a lot of really new, good connections and got to chat about my books all day, which is like the best thing in the world. And then I went to another signing later in the year, and this one was in November, and it was in Edinburgh, so it was much easier to get to. And that was the Literary Escape Festival here in Edinburgh, and there's going to be one again this year. I keep thinking we're actually in 2026 now, so late in November this year there's going to be one again, and I will go to that as well. That was a lot smaller, a lot more intimate, and also fantastic, with a great bunch of readers stopping by. And once again, these are all people that don't know who I am, never met me before, never read my books before, so it's a discovery for all of us. And it's really exciting when you have your table all set up and the readers turn up, because seeing how they respond to different covers and different stories, you can really, face to face, there's just nothing that beats it. And in this world that we live in, which is so digital, and I sell most of my books online, most of my sales are ebook sales, selling beautiful hardcovers, for example, and paperbacks face to face, and just talking to people about books is just wonderful. So with that in mind, because of my glutton for punishment as well, I've actually signed up for 5 signings for 2026. So I'm going to make myself even busier, but I just had to do it. So I'm really looking forward to that, I have to say. So it was a busy year with that, and also I am involved in the writer community here in Edinburgh. So there were a couple. I actually filmed an online masterclass for the Edinburgh Women's Fiction Festival. I took part in the Edinburgh Book Week. I was part of a panel with 3 other historical fiction authors, and that was in November. And then I'm also a member of the Romantic Novelists Association here in the UK, and the Scottish chapter is quite active, and I try to go to everything that they do. They do like 2 big kind of meetups a year. They had a meetup in Glasgow in October, and I went along to that, and I actually spoke for a bit about selling your books on Kindle Unlimited and Kindle Direct Publishing, and the benefits to that, etc. So I actually did a little bit of speaking as well, which is something I always actually really love to do, because I love to speak about this, and I love to encourage people who are interested in becoming an author. And in my previous life, before I was a full-time author, I was a teacher. I used to teach languages, English and Italian. So there's something really lovely about being in front of a class and going into teacher mode. I do love it, I have to say. So you can see it was a busy year, and I feel that this year in 2026, I am trying to put out the same amount of books, so 5 releases this year, same sort of thing, 3 historicals for the first half of the year, and it's going to be historical romance set in medieval Isle of Mull again, and it's going to be second generation, so it will take place, where is my cover, sorry, I'm just going to find it. This series here, it'll take place about 18 years, I think about 18 years after the series finishes. So it's a second generation of the individuals who were children when these books were happening. And I do love a good second generation story. I like to read them myself, and I have done it before, but I did it a while ago actually with one of my ancient Scotland series. I did the Warrior Brothers of Skye, set on the Isle of Skye in the 4th century, so it's like the time of the Picts. And so that was called the Warrior Brothers of Skye. And then after that, I did the Pict Wars, which was about 18 to 20 years afterwards, and it was about the children of the characters in the first series, and that did really well for me. And I noticed also that readers loved it. Readers just loved that continuity. And so, but it's been a while. So I thought, why not? I'll do it again. And I know that readers are really excited to hear about and also see the couples that they loved in the first 2 series, because of course I've already got 2 series on this island. I'm bringing up all 6 couples. So there's going to be a lot of reunions, and I'm thinking actually I need like a character family tree kind of / glossary in the back of my books, actually, for this series. I've just thought about that now, actually. It's probably a good idea. What do you think? Otherwise, it's very, I mean, even I'm the writer, and I actually have trouble sometimes keeping track of what are the names of the children, how many kids did they have, what are their ages. These are things that you don't want to get wrong because, readers will notice. So that's what I'm planning for the first half of this year. And then I've got another duology, which is going to be in the same world, Albia. So it's going to be set same world as The Queen and the Half-Blood and Bound by Deception and all my other Celtic romantasies. So Albia is the fictional world that I've created, which is inspired by ancient Pictish Scotland. That's the vibe we're going for. I haven't released the title or the blurb or anything about this new project, even though I'm actually writing it at the moment. When I get a moment, I'm like doing bits and pieces for it, and I'm up to about 46,000 words of the manuscript. But I'm just sitting on it at the moment and thinking about, how I'm going to kind of tell you all about it and everything. It's not that different from what I've done before, but it is much more standalone because it takes place about 5 years after the events of the previous two series. And not only that, it doesn't involve the characters of the previous series. I wanted something fresh. I wanted a new duology where you could be completely new to me and dive in and it wouldn't matter. Because I think that's nice as well. I always get a bit frustrated as a reader if I feel that I'm going to start someone's work and then I realise that I actually have to go back and read everything, many, many books to actually get up to speed. Whereas sometimes all I want is just to dive in and just start a new author at a different point. So that's what I'm hoping with this new one. So I'm going to be teasing little bits and pieces about it in the coming months. That will be released in September and December, so you can see why I'm not talking all that much about it at the moment, because it's still a while away and I've got a few releases before then, but I will start teasing one or two little things. And it's a bit different to the others. All I can say is that it's got beasts that lurk in the shadows, it's got blood magic, it's got tattoo magic, and it's got bloodlust as well. So bloodlust, tattoo magic, and beasts that lurk in the shadows. So it's got a lot of fun elements that I'm actually really enjoying exploring. So that is what I've got planned. And this year we've got lots of trips planned as well, going to the Isle of Mull, which is fortuitous because I'm setting another story there. So we're going in May, my husband and I. That will be good fun. We're going up to Aberdeenshire. We're going to the West Highlands. We're going all over the place, actually. And I'm really looking forward to those trips. We just had a trip away, actually. It was only half an hour out of Edinburgh, but that was really, really nice. We went to Dalkeith Country Park, which is a beautiful park with a palace, which was, I think, 1700s, but I think it was on the site of a medieval castle and back in the day, but it was incredibly beautiful and a lovely break from the city. So I really like to do these little trips, even the ones that are actually close by, because they really fill the creative well. And every trip, every little detail that I see, every stone wall, every castle, every oak wood, every meandering burn and old bridge, they give me inspiration for the books that I'm planning. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. It's the biggest reason why moving to Scotland was a great move for an author who writes all her books set in either Scotland or a Scottish-inspired fantasy world. So that is where I'm up to. Now, if you have been following my YouTube channel, you'll see I'm quite sporadic about what I post. But I also think it's nice to come on here and actually just have a little chat once in a while and let you know what I've been doing and what I'm planning to do. So you can if you've been following along and you want to know when the next releases are. So like I said, next release is February, I think, beginning of February. Then after that, we've got one in May, then one in August, then one in September, then one in December. So it's going to be a busy year, and I've got lots of writing to do. So I better get back to it. Although not today. I've knocked off for today. I tend to write mainly, in fact, always. My creative writing is in the mornings when I'm fresh, and then the afternoons I'm doing editing, or I'm doing marketing, or I'm doing admin. which is the not so sexy side of a business when you run your own business as an author. So I hope you enjoyed this little update, and I hope you've been enjoying my books. Did you read any of the books that I mentioned from last year? And if you did, do you have a favourite? I would love to know. So, like I said, I am sporadic and I don't know when I will be next back on here giving you an update. But until then, take care and happy reading. Bye-bye.